Quarkus Insight number 1. Test. Well, hello everyone. Hey, we're cheap on the budget right now. All right, so I'm not alone in this madness. Welcome to this new episode of Quarkus. It's an official one in the sense that it's not a meta subject. We're gonna have real conversations around tests today. And to have conversation here, I do have Max, my co-host and partner in crime, but also Georgios, which has been a massive contributor to Quarkus, jumping left and right. So maybe Georgios, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Emmanuel. My name is Georgios, or George, as it would be spelled in English. I've been with Red Hat for a couple years, but my life really changed when the great folks that started Quarkus really announced it internally, and like I had a massive oh man, I gotta jump onto this thing. It's beyond what I could ever imagine. I started contributing initially with the Spring stuff, and then just took it from there basically. And now trying to do like you said, things left and right.
So I guess I'll speak in the name of the great folks of Quarkus. It's like, thanks God Georgios is here because you're jumping on every trouble we have, and it's been a great experience.
Thank you very much.
All right. So Max, do you want to say a few things before we go into the core subject?
So a few things. I hopefully should have fixed my sound now, and Emmanuel should have stopped sending out my sound twice.
Yes.
Maybe I sound less weird. And the other thing is that we actually over the weekend, like our channel actually went from low 900s to now past 1,000. So that's cool. So we interested to do this, and over the weekend we had another thing. It was just the most answer. Tim Fox started a thread about how you pronounce Quarkus, and it's just a long thread. So I'm just wondering how you guys are pronouncing it. So mine is Quarkus. What's yours, Emmanuel?
To me, it's like Spartacus, so it's Quarkus. But I'm French, so who knows?
I say Quarkus, but
yeah. Hey, well, 1.02K. You guys see that?
All right.
Yeah. That's cool. And then that's the Team Fox thread for the conversation. And I love when British talks to British about pronunciation. So
yeah, it was
just love it.
It was tomato, data. Yeah, the whole thing. So anyway, I accept all pronunciations of Quarkus. It's fine.
Yes, it's the worst was Ceylon. I'm still not sure I'm pronouncing
Ceylon.
it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this one was like really difficult. So we did better for Quarkus. Yeah, all right. Yes.
Well, the last thing I had was, we published an article, like a blog with the video that we did last time, and we added the transcription in there, which I think works pretty nice. Like last time, we didn't talk very technical. Hopefully today, George is going to tell us all good things there are to know about testing, so it might be more useful. But it'd be cool if anyone wanted to say if that's useful or we should keep doing that. All done by Marcus Eisler. He volunteered to do it, so pretty awesome. Yes. It's also actually the subtitles. So if you go and you don't understand neither Emmanuel's French English or my mumbling Danish, there's no subtitles on the last one.
So anyway, transcripts here and subtitles in the video itself. You mean, right?
Yeah, so if you go to the video, there's now two. There's one that's whatever Google recognized, which I kept there just for entertainment value. And then there's the one
where do I go? I guess videos. Let me check.
Yeah, you click on the video and then you see the
Quarkus Insight. Yeah, there you go.
The CC in the corner. And so you just dump in the text and then Google figures out where the timestamps are. I was pretty impressed. But anyway, it's It'll just be good if the time spent there is something that people like. So
Cool.
anyway, that was the
Right.
that was the thing.
That was the introduction of things. Hey, we're still figuring out stuff out. Yeah. All right. So we're ready. We can share the screen of Georgios. But today we're going to talk about tests in Quarkus. So Quarkus is a Java framework. So I just use JUnit and off I go, right? Or is it a bit more complicated? What do you guys think?
Well, like all things in life, I think it's a little more complicated, but not too much. Not too much. Like if you're a regular enterprise Java developer, no problem at all. I mean, it reuses all the stuff you already know. So yeah, you'll have to like use a couple new annotations or whatever, but you just pick up the regular libraries you already know. Like we'll show Mockito, we'll show WireMock, assert J. So yeah, all good. I mean, you just have to understand how these fit in with the Quarkus ecosystem. But other than that, it's all good.
Okay. By the way, so here it's not about tests, but John says, hey, how do you pronounce pronunciation? So it says prononciation in French, so there you go. No, but more seriously, if you have questions while we are having conversation with Georgios around tests, so we're going to pretend we're having, well, not that pretending actually, but we're going to have questions to Georgios and ask questions. But if you do have questions on your own, just send them to the comments and we'll push a few selected ones and then ask Georgios for the answer hopefully. So something I wanted to say is if you want a plain unit test with like no dependence with the infrastructure, you just can go and use your JUnit or whatever is your preferred framework. I think we have to say we did settle on JUnit 5 as the default framework to do testing. So we recommend you keep that for Quarkus. But then Quarkus has this interesting model where it's fast enough or really fast to get started, to start itself. Therefore, we can run the whole application in each of your tests. And then you can run in real life situation, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you want me to share your screen so you show that a little bit, or what do you think?
Whatever. Yeah, whatever you think.
Yeah, sure. Let's
I'm
get
good.
started with that. Unless you guys have some more introduction on the testing.
Nope.
What do you feel we're
Sounds
missing?
good to me.
Okay.
No, I'm
Right,
good. I'm good.
So there you go. Yeah, hide
Okay.
your Skype. So this is a
Yeah.
Quarkus app, right?
Yes, this is a Quarkus application that I generated using our Maven tooling. So I haven't changed anything, just created a Quarkus application, opened it in IntelliJ, which I'll be using throughout this presentation. And all it is a Quarkus application has like one resource at this, and it has a couple tests. So you want to talk about what these two generated tests are?
Yeah, let's start with the first one.
Yeah.
The other
right.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, like Emmanuel said, when we use JUnit 5 with Quarkus, our integration with Quarkus, what it does is that it starts Quarkus itself, the whole Quarkus application, and we envision like you run hit the actual endpoints that your application uses. Like that's not the only thing you can do, of course. You do a whole bunch of other stuff, but that's like the main way we see it being used. So here you see like the Quarkus test is our integration point with JUnit 5, and that's all you need to do just to start your Quarkus application inside the test. And here is like you just write your regular test. We're using rest assured here, which Quarkus supports out of the box. So you're hitting the hello endpoint, expecting to get it.
You don't have to, by the way, but I think we integrate right away the port and host that the Quarkus app is running with rest assured. So it's like a total transparent experience for you.
Exactly. Yeah. If we didn't integrate out of the box, you would have to select you would have to do port 8081 or whatever. Yeah, but we do that out of the box, so the experience is no friction at all.
Oh, speaking of, so you put 8081 for a reason. So the default port in Quarkus is 8080. So that's how we
Yes.
start. So historically from Wildfly and even before. But for tests, we've decided to bump the port to 1 so that you can run your test and while having your live application running, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, exactly. Our default port for running the regular application is 8080, but you run your test 8081. So we envision you can do multiple things in parallel. Also, the dev mode runs in 8080, so you can have your dev mode running and then your test like running separately. So that's just a way we have
Can I
to
change
make
it?
things easier.
Can I change it by
Yes,
default? How do I do
yes,
that?
absolutely, absolutely. You go here to Quarkus. Well, this my ID. Oh, IntelliJ Ultimate doesn't have property completion yet. I know Max was working on that, but there's also a community plugin that I haven't installed yet. But anyway, HTTP port would be like 8080, let's say 9090 for the regular one.
Just to clarify, the IntelliJ, if you install the community Quarkus plugin, you should have copies.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't installed that, but IntelliJ Ultimate out of the box doesn't have that, and I haven't installed it. So if I wanted to change the port, like let's say 8082, I would just do this, set Quarkus HTTP dot test port. So like Emmanuel likes to say a lot, and I think it's a great decision, is that everything in Quarkus is configured through this application properties. So a whole bunch of our frameworks and libraries that we use are controlled in this manner. So you just have to learn a set of properties, and you can figure out all the properties. Like you go Quarkus, even if like I don't have the IDE integration, but if I go to HTTP reference on our web page, we can see like what all the properties are. They're not here. Maybe like Quarkus testing. I usually just open the source code. So anyway, I'm not sure exactly where they are now. If you remember, that'd be great. But usually the properties are like right on the site, so you can see exactly what your
Actually,
what
you can.
Yeah.
Let me take the lead for us. Split
Yeah,
second.
sure.
So one thing I liked, and I have to admit, I went really kicking and screaming for that, but what I thought was really the best solution was for each guide to have the list of properties for it. So if you go to, sorry, my network is suffering a bit apparently. So if I go to configuring data sources here, at some point you see, here is how I configure the data source, and you might even have, the complete list somewhere, I think towards the end. Yeah, there you go. You got a full page here. And we did two things. So one is this list here is actually generated from the list of properties we have in each of in this specific extension. And you can filter stuff here. So if I am only looking for health check, then it doesn't work. I don't know what's going on. DB kind. Yeah, there you go. So you got the filtering of the list of properties. So that's useful to if you got a big list of properties. But another one that is useful is if you go back to Quarkus.io/guides. Here, the second to one. So hey, the first one is hey, how do I configure my app? But the second one is give me all of the possible Quarkus configurations ever. And here you've got the massive list of properties, and you can really quick search something. So if yeah, there you go. If I look for I don't know SQL, because I want the Hibernate way to find things. Well, I guess I should have used here SQL. There's a bit too many here, but I should be able to find somehow fast enough there you go, Hibernate RM. Then you see how do I get the logs. So I guess log SQL would have been better. So it's a nice way to get all of the properties and filter them out very quickly. And I was against that, but since we have automated it, we said, hey, why not? And it was actually it is a very good solution. So yeah, back to Georgios now.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I was looking for those, but yeah, that's exactly how we envision people to find them, or with the ID integration like VS Code has this out of the box and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and like run a first test, right? So from my IDE, it should just work. I'll just hit it right here. And what this will do is it'll start the Quarkus application, and it will actually perform an HTTP request against the hello endpoint. So if I go change this to hello here, then obviously my test will fail. I'll run it again. My test will fail because I expected hello. And that's it for the rest assured stuff. So rest assured integration out of the box. This is the regular JVM application when we're running with Quarkus test. Now we have another sort of test, which we call the native image test. And what this does is that it gives you the ability to build the GraalVM native image and run tests against that. So with like one click here, I can run, I can build the test. I can run, sorry. Okay. I haven't configured IntelliJ to properly find everything here, but if I do mvn verify -d native, what it will do after running the greeting resource test, it'll run this test with Maven failsafe, so it's an actual integration test. It will build the GraalVM native image as we're seeing here, and once it builds that, it will start it and execute. In this case, it'll execute the same REST endpoint, same HTTP request against the REST endpoint of the native image.
Yeah, so if you're unsure about the native image, that's how you would do your extra smoke tests to make sure the native image, is not doing something funky compared to the actual Java code, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. We see it as like a black box testing thing where you can only test the parts of the application that are available from the outside via HTTP or messaging or anything like that. So now
by the way,
we're gonna.
You said you forgot to configure stuff in IntelliJ. I think it's is to export a property which is GraalVM home, something like that. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's
so
like
when you
if
start
I
your test, you edit your test, and then you set an environment variable which is GraalVM home, which will point to the native image generator. I forgot the name of it. Native, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, native image. Yeah. So I would configure. Exactly. I would configure it here, and then it would figure it out, and everything would just work. But I didn't do that now. But
okay. Hey, we got one question from Redo. Let's try and extract something out of it. So, guys, please make a guide to test-driven development for post from controller, service, and repos in this video. Thank you for helping me. I've configured my POM, but inject mock kind of returns some error. I'm not sure what inject mock. Oh, I guess we're gonna go and address the whole mock aspect a bit later. Maybe that'll be a good time to dive into this.
Sure, yeah. Sounds good.
And I think the point here is the post part. No,
excuse me?
Until now, I think the point here is the post part, I assume. Because the get part is easy, it's more the post flow.
Yeah. Well, the post flow isn't anything specific to Quarkus, right? It's just you would use your rest assured. You just configure the rest assured test to do whatever it needs to do with post. So we can do that. Yeah, we can do that later. But we also another thing we should mention is that a ton of our quick starts have most of this stuff implemented already. So looking at the Quarkus quick starts is, which I'll pull up right here, is a great way to see like all the stuff that we envision is the proper way of doing things, or have like a lot of examples. So here it is, Quarkus.io, Quarkus quick starts. We have all the quick starts here. If I do post, I'm pretty sure I'll find something. So it would be here, like the validation right here. You can see an example of how you would do post. So it's here, like it's just rest assured that there's nothing Quarkus specific to this. But yeah, we can try it out. So how about we move on to like something that.
Hold on, we got one question from Ricardo. Is there a way as the test run the Quarkus app to automate the bootstrap of dependent system? which I think is going to be a nice connection to test containers and how you can integrate it. So, whenever you want to jump on that, we can.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what Ricardo means here because it could mean various things in the Quarkus space.
Yeah, so I suppose it's not a dependent system of the internal of the application. Here we will see how you do mock, which would be a way to work around that. But I assume he wants to start an external database.
Yeah, we'll show
things like that
for sure. Yeah, we'll definitely show that. That's one of the points that we really want to cover, test containers. So let's start with something that we really hear a lot. Like a lot of people want to mock the REST client or want to start using REST client and then start testing it. REST client is like super useful because every microservice has to do HTTP requests sooner or later. So everybody ends up using the REST client. So let's go ahead and start with like creating an example REST client. What I'm going to do, I'm going to hit an external country service. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a country, let's say DTO. I'm going to have two fields, name and capital. Okay, let me just go ahead and use JSON-B. So in Quarkus, we support JSON-B and Jackson, both for marshalling and marshalling JSON. I'm just going to use JSON-B here, just for no particular reason. So let's set up. Okay, I'm going to do.
You could have done that with add extension, right? You didn't do anything except add extension. Yeah.
Yes, I could have done MVN, add extension. But since I'm already in the ID, I just copy and pasted it here. So I'm just doing stuff
it just means that adding an extension is literally adding something in the POM, right? So that's
yes, exactly.
There's no magic.
Yeah, so we have tooling that can automate this. So everybody's workflow is different, right? My workflow is for me, it's just easier to copy and paste something from POM XML, but other people could do it a lot differently.
Yeah, I used to develop with X, so didn't have any.
No, I've always been an IntelliJ fan. So we set up our DTO, and now let's actually set up what the REST client would look like. So let's say country service. This would be an interface. So the REST client, it's declarative. The whole idea is that you declare an interface, and then Quarkus will automatically implement that interface for you in order by generating a code that will use HTTP requests. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hit an external. We're going to try to use an external service. I'm going to use this REST countries service, right? RESTcountries.eu, and I'm just going to use one endpoint, which is the name endpoint, which, as you can see here, what I want to hit is this, right? REST v2 name. So that's what I'm going to try to set up here. Country import, let's say get by name, string name. Okay, so this will be a get, as I can see here. Well, it doesn't say it, but it is a get anyway. It'll return produces application JSON. And the path, well, see, the whole path for the country for the version of the country service I'm using is under v2, as we see here, and the path for this request is name, and it has name, which is the parameter. So I'm going to have path param name. So that sets it up. I'm just going to copy paste the URL. So like we said earlier, we configure a lot of things through application properties. And since I want to type this whole thing here, this is what you would configure. So basically, when you're building a REST client, when Quarkus is building a REST client, it needs to know like what the base URL is. And this is how we set the base URL. So this is the name of the class. And you said this is the suffix of the property that we use in order to configure the base URL. So the base URL is restcountries.eu/rest. And now how are we supposed to use this? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to expose this as a REST API. So we're not building anything with business logic here, right? We're just going to build a REST endpoint that will delegate to hitting delegate to the REST client to hit the REST endpoint of REST countries IDU. I'm going to call that country resource. I know, Emmanuel, I don't know what your thoughts are on what this is supposed to call. In the Spring world, we call this a controller. I guess, like here, in Quarkus, we've been using resource, but I know talking to Stefan, he didn't really like that name. So I don't know what you guys think, what your opinion is.
I don't have opinion really, so.
How about you, Max?
Controller for me is something I would use.
I think I'd use controller for my play days.
Oh, okay. So that's for play you did it as well. Okay. Here we go. So we're injecting the country service, the interface, into the, we'll call it a resource here. But when Quarkus creates it, it adds the REST client CDI qualifier. So when we're injecting, we have to use that qualifier as well. And this is done because you might want to create your own. But in this case, we're just using the qualifier to disambiguate if there are multiple services, multiple implementations of the country service. So I'm just going to copy this here and go, and let's see, this is get, and I'll say path name. And I'll do country resource get by name. Okay, so now what I've done, I've just set up a resource which will hit the REST client. But now I want to test it, right? So I'll create a new test. I'll say regular country resource test. This is going to be a Quarkus test. And I'm just going to copy this here. Since I basically have to do similar things. Test, I'm going to say test Greece. So this would be country.
The IMF. That
No, we're out of the IMF.
Yeah. Well, everybody's in, I think, at some point.
Yeah, Greece is probably longer than most, but anyway, hopefully that's behind us. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and show what I expect this to return. So this is just standard rest assured syntax. So this will be the size here. I expect it to be 1 because Greece, when I hit the REST service, it'll give me 1 only. If I added like GR, it would return a lot more results. And I'll go and I'll say the first result name is, the name is Greece.
So that syntax is just JSON path, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah. It's JSON path. Yeah, rest assured uses JSON path exactly.
By the way, let me ask a question to the readers. Is anybody knows why we started the video with the music from Star Wars? All right, you can carry on. Let's see if somebody picks that up.
Yeah, good question. Okay, so now I'm starting the test inside my browser, so I obviously made a mistake here. Response. So I think I made a mistake. Did I not add JSON B REST client? JSON B. Could not find message body writer array list. Oh, octet stream. Yeah, so I obviously made a mistake. Produces the. Yeah, I think this also. Yeah, I made a mistake here. I didn't. You guys should have caught that. Returning JSON.
What was the error?
The error was that it told me that it couldn't return an octet stream because I didn't have this that produces. So by default, it's using octet stream, and it couldn't figure that out.
So that's May the 4th, so that's why we had the sound.
All right.
Just for info.
Capital. Oh, so I made another mistake. I didn't add getters here. So obviously that.
Hey,
I tested.
Well, you figure that out. There was a question from Anthony. Hey, gang, I can't find a save or update copy in Panache and TT Base. What's wrong? So it's a joke because Anthony is a long-time contributor and team member of the Hibernate before he went into the darker side of support, and then later training and certification. But it is a very good question, and it's a more complex than one could think. There is an open issue, but I suppose let's keep that question for later in a specific panache presentation. That would be probably a good one to exchange on.
Yeah, you'll probably have to bring Stefan here and get him to describe all the nitty-gritty of panache.
So there's a new question about the constructor. You want to take that, Emmanuel?
Yes.
Last one.
There you go. Is there any difference of injecting REST client in constructor instead of the instance variable?
No, there's not. I just wanted to show it because in the CDI world, well, the Java E world, whatever you want to call it, a lot of people don't use constructor injection, and a lot of folks from like the Spring world think that, oh yeah, Java E doesn't have constructor injection and all that weird stuff. But it's been around forever. It's just that like in all tutorials and stuff, you don't see it being used that much. That's just why I wanted to make the point here that it just works out of the box, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's all done at compile time, so there's no reflection really. It's all figured out at compile time, and we generate the right class to actually populate those, either constructor or the setter getter, the setter. Yeah, that's
a huge differentiator of Quarkus. Everything's a build time. So getting back to the test, I should actually get it to work. The assertion was failing because it was saying that the name wasn't Greece, and that was my fault because I didn't have getters. Hopefully now I should get everything working. Pretty sure I will. All right, yeah, everything's working. So that was the super easy thing to do, right? I just wrote REST client here, and I verified that it works. But what we were hearing from everybody was like, oh yeah, you know what? That's cool. But in a lot of times I want to mock this out. I don't want to hit the real service, and that's a very, very valid point.
Just two things, because I think either John, you could also put register REST client on this, right? Instead of putting it on the injection.
Oh yeah, I should have. Yeah, actually. Register REST client was what I should have done here. You're right. Yeah.
Okay. But it's equal to the same thing, right? So,
yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same thing. Actually, it's a good point because I'm gonna have to update in order for the mocking to work that I'm gonna show right afterward. I'm gonna have to update this, which is, and I'm gonna have to make it application scope, and I'll explain exactly what that.
Okay.
While you do that. I can explain a little bit before we go into mocking. So here, so far, most of our tests have been kind of black box. So we say, hey, we go and connect to that URL and we do something and whatnot. But Quarkus tests actually is a bean inside your app. So you can literally inject other beans. So you can do what I would call more like a gray box kind of test where you can inject one of the beans to do some more surgery into deciding what you want to test and going on. So I suppose by side effect we'll show that inside mocking, but I wanted to present that because even if you don't do mocking, it's actually a very, very useful feature set.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in here, yeah, we could, in the test, we could, like if I did this, country service inject and the REST client, then that's exactly what Emmanuel is describing here. That if I did this, I could use this inside the test any way I wanted, because exactly like Emmanuel showed, this is a bean. So we're going to show something a little different. So we want to mock this, right? So we want when I hit Greece, I want to have my own thing instead of like hitting the REST service. So the whole idea here is that I added Quarkus JUnit 5 Mockito, which integrates Mockito and JUnit 5 with our Quarkus CDI stuff. So what you would do here is you go country service, and you would, instead of inject, you do inject mock. And because we need the qualifier, we'll do the REST client. Like I said, same reason we injected, we used the qualifier in the injection point here. This is another injection point, so we're going to use the qualifier. Now we want to control it. So this will give us a mock of country service, and it's a mock that we can control with Mockito. That's the great part. Oops, sorry. And then you just use Mockito the same way you've always been using it. Like, I don't know, I've been using Mockito for a long time, and I always loved it, and never thought to like use any other mocking library. So what I would do here is like I do Mockito when country service get by name Greece. And I would say then return collection singleton list. I would say new country. And let's call it, like, instead of Greece, let's say Hellenic Republic and Athens. So now what I've done here is basically country service will be the mock, and it will replace the regular CDI bean, but only for this test. And that's a very important part, that this test will continue to use the regular external URL that we're hitting. This test here is the only one that's going to use the mock, and that's really what mocks are for, right? Like per test, let's say alteration of your application. So if I go here, I expect to get Hellenic Republic, and let's try that.
Yeah. When you run it, just be clear, the inject mark is actually a Quarkus annotation, right?
Yes, exactly. If I open imports here, it's Quarkus test J5 Mockito inject mock, and now it failed. And I wanted it to fail because I need to explain like why when this inject mock thing works. So inject mock works on normal scope CDI beans. Normal scope CDI beans are usually either application scope or request scope. So the microprofile spec defines that when you create a REST client like this and you don't define the CDI scope, then it's dependent. It's the dependent pseudoscope, which practically means that in every injection point you get a new instance of this country service. And that doesn't allow us to create it doesn't allow us to create a mock because it's already JDK dynamic proxy, and Mockito can't already mock a dynamic proxy. So what we have to do is we have to make this an application scope. So by making this application scope, this inject mock here will work. And when I do MBN clean test again, I should see all my tests passing now. And they all passed. Is that weird?
Somehow couldn't we or Arc detect that, hey, it's dependent scope, but then in some tests we want to do a mock, so let's actually have some sort of a fake different scope?
Yes. Basically, yeah, we've discussed this with Stuart and Martin. Mm-hmm. And yeah, what we're thinking is that like we'll have some kind of bytecode transformer that will be used like when you have like this kind of inject mock thing that will be used, and it will alter the code of the country service itself to actually take the mock into account. So that's something that we'll probably do sometime soon.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Cool.
So in theory, we're 22 minutes before we end, so just check mark.
Okay, cool. One more thing about the mock. So let's say I do, since I'm using Mockito, Mockito by default, when you don't define something, it will return a default response. So if I do like country France, and since I haven't told it what to do for France, what it will do is it will return an empty list. So that's just a Mockito thing I wanted everybody to be aware of.
I wanted to clarify to Igor. So this problem with the mock that cannot be the dependent type that cannot be mocked. So the workaround is to use application scope on your service, and that will be the workaround right now until we have a proper solution inside Quarkus. But that works. Actually, that service should have been application scope most likely anyways. So
yes, exactly. Yeah. The only reason it wasn't is the spec defines that it should be dependent scope by default. Otherwise, yeah, I would have just made it application scope.
So we got another one. Georgia, want to take out a manual? How to mock REST clients?
How do I mock REST client test object to throw a 500 exception, HTTP 500, but not using Mockito, only Quarkus annotation at mock or an Eclipse microprofile register client?
I don't think you can, like with a mock, right? I don't think you can mock it to tell it to return a 500. Well, you can obviously with Mockito do tell it to throw an exception, but through annotations, I don't think you can do that. I don't have anything. I can't recall of anything. But I would argue that if you were going to test something like that, you probably want to do what I'm going to do now, which is to actually use to not mock the REST client, but to mock the external service. So what I plan to show now is that we continue to use the regular REST client, but instead of using the external REST countries service that I was using, I'm gonna start a service like a proxy, let's say, that will intercept all the requests, HTTP requests to that service. And in there, I can make it return 500. I can make it return 404. I can make it return any kind of error I want in order to test my actual integration. So in my view, that would be the proper way to test like HTTP errors.
And that also answers Peter Jan. Sorry about butchering your first name.
No, go ahead.
Which is inject mock is great for functionality tests, but is there a way to verify that the correct annotations are used on the REST client? And that would be exactly that. So you would have your server being a custom one, and you redirect to that server, and then you can run the proper test with the REST client in a fully controlled environment. And that would be the best way.
Exactly. I think that's the best way to test the end-to-end integration. And that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
So let's go like country service. If we do country service and create a test for country service, this would be a Quarkus test. And I'll say void test gr. And I'll go country. I'm going to inject it here, country service, inject REST client. And I'm going to say assertions, no, not the JUnit assertions. I want the assert J assertions. Here we are. Assert that country service. Get by name gr has size greater than 1 and extracting name contains Greece. So this test is, I haven't added anything special to this test yet. I just wanted to set it up to show you that what we're going to do here is that we're going to use the country service, but we're going to hit an external endpoint that will be controlled by us once I get this going. Okay, so sorry, this is a test. Run it again. Now we're going to introduce one more concept that is specific to Quarkus, and we're going to use WireMock in order to demonstrate it. So, like Emmanuel said earlier, we boot Quarkus once, and then we run all the tests against it. And what that means is that when you want to like do something before you boot Quarkus, you need, as a developer, you need an integration point. Well, the Quarkus test resource is that integration point that you're looking for. So I'm going to say WireMock countries. So I'm going to create such an integration point where what I'm planning to do is that I'm planning to create a WireMock server where I set up basically the endpoints that I care about, and our test is actually going to hit that server. How do we do that? So we add this Quarkus test annotation, test resource annotation, and we create a class that implements this Quarkus test resource lifecycle manager. The stuff we care about here, the methods we care to implement here are start, which basically is the method that Quarkus calls back into, the Quarkus test calls back into before it launches the Quarkus application. And what it returns is a set of properties. So that's runtime properties that Quarkus that will affect how Quarkus runs. And stop is just called like when the Quarkus finishes, when all the tests finish. So what I'm going to do here is WireMock server. WireMock server. I'm going to go Wiremock server is new, Wiremock server start. And now, since we're actually kind of running out of time, I'm just going to copy paste the actual mocking part. And yes, okay, I copied it from the stuff that I've already have ready and will share with you at the end of the presentation so you can follow along. I'm going to make this a Java 14 because I want to Java 14. I also have to.
You want to use the text
yes,
block, which is
cool. Exactly. So, yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what I want to use because I hate writing JSON inside the little with the regular Java stuff. It's just terrible. So test compile. I'm going to enable. So in order to do that, though, I need to enable some preview stuff. So maybe a compiler plugin. This stuff isn't actually important for the actual test, but it's cool to see show like that that with Quarkus we have like all the flexibility to do anything you need, like anything you're used to with Maven or whatever. So I'll say
Quarkus works with Java 14.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It doesn't work with records just yet, but we have a PR ready for that, so it should be working very soon. So
you basically show that people can use in like 4 or 5 years in the production system.
No, well, they can use it right now. They can use it right now.
I know. Like Quarkus work with it,
Enable
but their
preview
company
goes
standard
very well with the production guys.
Yeah, I love it. Why not? So I have to enable preview both for compile and for Surefire when running. Otherwise, like it won't work. And I have to tell IntelliJ to use it because it's not smart enough to figure out how I configured it. So basically, what I'm doing here is that I'm stubbing out the RV2. I'm stubbing out the endpoint that this method is looking for, and I'm saying like when you see gr, don't return the regular Greek stuff, but return like the same name in Greek. So I just actually wrote Greek. And the other thing I did is that here I told it to forward all the stuff that didn't match here. I told it to forward it to the actual service. And I need to do one more thing to get this working. I need to tell Quarkus to use this server. So this server, once it's started, it'll start at some URL, some port. I don't know which, but I don't really care because all I have to do in order to make the country service work, I need to tell it where the URL is. But Wiremock base URL gives me that information. So what this does is that it overrides the property that I have here, which is the default, let's say. This gets overridden by what I start here, because like I said, these properties that are returned by start are runtime properties that override what's in application properties.
One quick question: is there a test? Is there a doc somewhere that goes into details at everybody's own pace? Because that's a lot of information on that.
Yes, I know. No, because I just came up with this when I was preparing for this.
There you go.
Session. So yeah,
driven. No, how you call that? YouTube Live driven feature.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you're saying the feature is there. It's just the example is new.
Yeah, I need to write down the example. Yeah, because this is a lot of information, and it's not.
What did you do once you've done here? Like take this code and commit into a repo and push it. Then we can.
I've already done that. I'll share. Once this is done, I'll show you the URL, and you can find.
Just remind me. What's the thing that like this start? What was the thing that made it? What was the thing that made that being picked up?
Yes.
Is that the lifecycle manager?
Yes. Quarkus test resource, and it picks up these lifecycle managers, and like I could have multiple lifecycle managers. Like I could have one for database or whatever, and they'll all run. They'll all run before Quarkus starts. That's the important part. They run before Quarkus starts, and they can override runtime properties.
Very cool. I was wondering about that. I know.
We have 10 minutes left. We haven't showed the test containers, which is one of the questions we had. So let's go do that.
Yes. Let's do that really quick. Okay. So I'm going to say fruit, and I'm going to okay, test containers. I'm going to copy and paste the dependencies from here. Let's see. Okay, so
Greetings from fruits. This is getting awkward.
Okay,
so test containers, for information for people that don't know, is it's a way to start to control by your test lifecycle, starting a set of resources inside the Docker container on the same machine, and maybe on other machines, I don't quite know. But the idea is you control the Docker start and stop of, say, a database or a JMS queue, or whatever you want to run your integration test. And that's very, very useful for that.
Absolutely, yeah, and we get that question a lot. So we really need to show this. So I just copy pasted like the Hibernate Panache ORM dependency, PostgreSQL driver. I'll probably leave Panache mock out for later, so you can talk about that when you have Stefan on the show. Since this is a feature coming in 1.5, it's not in yet. Okay, so let's go create an entity. I'll say root. Oops, I misspelled that. Entity extends.
Yeah, there is a good one. So Antonio says, what about debugging your test? I find it cumbersome to have to attach the debugger and so on in IntelliJ. I think... that's for the test, okay.
For the test, no,
it's not worse than any Java applications running any testing running in IntelliJ. If it was to run the plain Java application from IntelliJ and attach the debugger, know that we have the command mode. That's much easier. I don't know about tests. Like, what do you?
Oh, this will work. Like if I do this, let me hit okay, I'm at country service. If I go to country resource, like.
Yeah, the unit test you should be able to click this debug and anything. Yeah,
no, it works. Yeah, if I do debug, it'll work. Well, now I've added a bunch of dependencies, but yeah, and I got this thing. So regular test, throw it out. Delete anyway. Okay. So let's say I did this. Now I have all the Hibernate stuff inside. Let me take out Hibernate. Okay. So
are you trying just to add the test container so it boots up, or what are you?
Yeah, I was starting the test containers thing. Yeah, exactly. But now I want to show like the actual debugging works. It works just like any other Java application. JUnit test, it'll work. Because the idea, it works because it's in the same JVM. I mean, the test runs inside the same JVM. The application and the test run inside the same JVM, so the debugging just works. What is a little cumbersome at the moment is dev mode inside the IDE. So with dev mode, the easiest way to do it is like you do npm Quarkus dev, and then you attach a remote debugger later on. And most people aren't used to that workflow because they're used to like running their Java minus jar from the IDE or wherever all the time. But with Quarkus dev mode, it's a little different. You just start it on the command line, you forget about it, and then you attach a remote debugger. And that's how that works.
Yeah, so just to add into this, the VS Code actually does it. So when you do, it sets up a default launch. You press F5, it will start Quarkus Dev and connect the debugger for you. So you don't. And I didn't actually realize this until Fred told me. I was like, oh, so it's so lightweight. And this, I think I want to see if we can add the same thing to the IntelliJ and Eclipse thing, because it's nice because you.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, because people expect it to work. I mean, they don't understand that it's not obvious. Like when you start Quarkus Dev mode, that a different process starts. And then that's the process you have to connect the debugger to. Yeah, it's not exactly obvious. So yeah, having that would be great in IntelliJ as well.
All right, let's go back to test containers.
Yes,
To
yes,
start that
yes.
baby.
Let's finish that up. So fruit resource. I created a fruit entity, Panache. So with Panache, obviously, you don't have to write almost any code. Everything will just work out of the box. I'm going to go public list fruit.
By the way, we should have even less code at some point in the near future. Just a bit of a teaser. Went from a resource to talking to Panache entity.
Yeah, you know it's coming.
I don't know when. That's a problem. I live in the
The
future.
the PR I think is pretty much ready. It's just Stefan's reviewing it, but we should be close. Fruit list all, and okay, so this will just list all, and now I need to create fruit resource test, and this will be a Quarkus test, and now I'm going to add a different test resource, a Quarkus test resource. So I need to start the database before Quarkus starts, right? So if I go here, I'll do test containers, database dot class. I'll create a class, and again, it'll be a Quarkus resource lifecycle manager. And since we don't have much time, I'm going to copy paste it. So what it does here basically is, I'll write this real quick and then explain what it does. So the idea is the resource, or the test resource lifecycle manager will start it'll start a test containers PostgreSQL database. So here I've told it like version 11.7 with database name, username, password, Quarkus test. So just some simple defaults. And the important part here is that I start the database, and then I define the Quarkus runtime properties. So that would be the data source runtime properties. So that would be the username, the password, and the URL. And just like WireMock did, same way the test containers gives me a JDBC URL that I can just use. So this way, I don't have to configure anything with Docker and POM.XML or have the Docker container running any other way. I just integrate it with Quarkus test containers, and it'll just work. I need to fix a few more things to make this work out of the box. And this is test specific. That I'm telling it it's a database, the Postgres database. And I'm telling it to drop and create the database for the test. I'm going to seed the database with some data and do test. Okay, fruit, and I need to copy, like, let's say this.
Basically, there's no magic here, right?
No.
Magic is it's just using test containers, and
yes,
the only thing you have to do is use the wiring up with the Quarkus test resource. And
yes, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
To start the test containers before Quarkus starts. So this should be all basically. I seeded the database with 3 fruits, and that's why in my test I said that I'm expecting 3. I've definitely made okay.
Java 14.
Yes. So SDK man, I totally endorse it. SDK use Java 14 done. And now I'm just running again. And let's see. So test container starting here, we saw it. Database started, test passed. And it was that easy, right? So you saw it. All I needed is a test resource, start the database. The important thing is to set the runtime properties I need, and it just works.
Yeah. Just quickly taking the hand here. So SDK main is sdkmain.io, and it's a way to select the Java SDK you want and a few other things. You got a bunch of options here. But if you jump from one JDK to another, the GraalVM one versus the non-GraalVM one, that's a very useful tool. You also show the test containers, and I wanted to show that it's not limited to databases. You got quite a bunch of other things like Kafka, Elasticsearch, Apache Pulsar, etc., etc. So that's that's quite good, and integrates with JUnit 5, which is the one thing we're using right now. So that's cool. There is one tiny things they don't do, which is really sad, is they do require the Docker daemon, which means you cannot use that with Podman, which is a bit of a shame, because that's would be super useful. But otherwise, it's working great.
Yep. Yeah. Hopefully that will lift restriction will be maybe lifted soon. Who knows?
Yeah, they don't seem to be
Okay.
super, yeah, eager to do that.
Well, we hit the hour.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else, Georgios?
Yeah. Basically, the URL for the all the code I showed, you can find it. I don't know how I'm supposed to share it. Do I just post it in the chat?
Just post it in chat, and then we'll put it in the blog when it comes out. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
And tell us how you felt. Was it too technical, not technical enough, too fast, too small, too big, perfect, too perfect? Whatever. Send that on the chat live while it's still alive. Otherwise, go to the video, post comments in there, and don't forget to subscribe to the Quarkus channel. So youtube.com/QuarkusIO. Actually, I realize you don't need the C here, so let me remove it. And click here, there you go. youtube.com/QuarkusIO, and hit subscribe. And I'm not sure if it's going to be a weekly event or a bi-weekly event. Bi-weekly meaning every 2 weeks for the confusing English people like me.
Got a question?
Yeah, there is one question, so let me go back to us. So why did you prefer Maven over Gradle?
For the simple reason that I'm more familiar with it, right?
Yes.
Quarkus works with both. Let's say it probably works. Some of the edge cases, like the very edge cases, work better with Maven. But Gradle support is it's being looked into, and it'll get way better over time. But the reason I used it is because I'm more familiar with Maven.
Yeah, and just the Gradle Maven discussion is that there's some issues we can't fully handle in Gradle yet, but we are hoping to fix it. But I also want to say, as far as we know right now, about 70% of the people who goes to Quarkus.io chooses Maven, and the other 30% chooses Gradle. So it's a bit it'll be improved.
Yeah, and Georgios is coding too fast, so that's good to know. We need slower coders. So indeed, there is a bit of a lag with YouTube Live. Hopefully it won't be too visible in the actual final video once it's all fully uploaded and properly run. But otherwise, good feedback on that.
Yes,
all right,
thank
you.
I think we're good.
Well, we're good. Thank you, everyone, and see you sometime in the future. Hopefully, a regular cadence is what we're gonna try and do, but who knows? And happy May the 4th to everyone then.
Exactly.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.